Okay, I think we'll get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining. It is Wireless Friday. I'm excited about it. I get to do this once a month on the fourth Friday of every month. And today's topic, I'm one kind of excited about. So, I kind of work with some of my peers to come up with what the topic should be, and we realized that there's just a bunch of things that are kind of rattling around in our heads that really maybe we only know or we're only very familiar with because we work here, and it's not because things are secret or trying to kept confidential, just because there's just a lot of information out there, and sometimes it's hard to find. So I asked around a couple of my friends. I called them insiders, and said, "Hey, do you have a tip that you think that we might want to share?" And I've got a bunch of tips that we're going to share today, and I'm kind of excited about that. So we're using WebEx Event Center. If you are not familiar with WebEx Event Center, it looks a little bit different than a standard WebEx meeting. But if you want to have some technical support, the best way to do that is to use the chat button. So that chat button kind of looks like a little speech bubble. It's not the best place to ask questions. If you have questions about the content, or if you have questions for the presenter or any of the panelists, there is a question mark button that kind of looks like that button there on the slide. It says Q&A under it. You can ask that Q&A. There are a little over a dozen panelists, which thank you to all of my colleagues who have volunteered their time, maybe voluntold their time to help answer questions. And again, many of them are going to be presenters here today. There is another button that I wanted to call your attention to. Just on the right-hand side, underneath all of the panelists, there's a little button that looks like a little bullhorn. If you click on that, you can actually kind of tell me how things are going on your end. If you agree with someone, say yes. If you don't agree, say no. If you think it's great, maybe give an applause or some laughter. I'd love to give some kind of feedback. It's a great way to let us know in real time what you think. And after the event, you will be directed to a poll, and we want to get all fives. Frankly, I know that, before my job here at Cisco, I'm like, I never give fives, just like you really have to go above and beyond. But really, if you can see and hear well, please give us a 5. If the content met your expectations, give us a 5. It was clear and concise, please give us a 5. Don't give me a 5 just because I'm like, give me a 5. If we didn't earn a 5, let us know how we did, but I'd really love to know what would have earned a 5. And if you have any specific questions about what we learned here, or have some ideas for future sessions, please add those to the poll at the end. And with that, let's just get right into it. I have 15 tips. Now, when I asked around to my peers, there were hundreds of great things that we could have passed on. But whether or not that would be kind of useful and digestible was up for debate. So what I did was I separated things out into 5 different categories, and I picked my top 3 favorite in each one of those categories. And I'm going to have my peers actually present each and every one of them. The very first one comes from J.D. Dorian. He is an enterprise networking PSS. What is that? That's just the fancy. We call it a product sales specialist. It's what I do. I'm a subject matter expert. We call that a PSS. We also have on here a number of consulting systems engineers. So if you see that acronym, that's what that means. And JD unfortunately can't make it today. He was ill. He called me this morning. He felt pretty bad, but he wanted to talk about site surveys and the importance to do a site survey. And his customers tend to be very large customers, but even very large customers fall into the same kind of marketing hype sometimes that, hey, you don't need to do a site survey. And so they sometimes don't. And later on, it causes problems. And so what he wanted to do is like, hey, you know what? A site survey that might have been like a site survey 10 years ago or even 5 years ago is way different than the site survey today. And just knowing, even if you did something just on paper, or there's software products that help you with that, to help you understand where an access point should go and how high up off the ground, and looking at obstructions, and then following the installation, do a post-validation survey. That tends to be more along the lines of what kind of survey is done today. But understand, if you don't do a survey, you could have results associated with, I think his term was like maybe garbage in, garbage out. Maybe that was my term, but not to say that it will always be garbage, but know before you go, because maybe a survey can help illuminate an issue that maybe you didn't expect. So that was JD's idea for a tip. I want to pass the ball now over to my colleague in Florida, Ken. Ken, would you tell us who you are and share your tip?
Sure. So I'm the baby of the bunch. If you guys will hear, some of these guys have been here 10, 12 years. I've been here for about 3 months, and I came from another wireless company. And I'm the PSS here in the state of Florida. I cover Florida as well as the Gulf states in Oklahoma and Arkansas. And my first tip really is the importance to having a control plane, a strategy for a control plane for your network. And it's more of a dirty little secret than it is a tip. And that dirty little secret is that wireless isn't always easy. Sometimes it's complex, and sometimes it's very complex. In fact, in an ideal world, there would be an easy button for our networks. But the reality of it is that most of our networks are complex. And managing each network element, each AP, individually, is costly, and it can also be prone to mistakes. And so the more complex the environment, the more you need a control plane, in this case, a wireless LAN controller. In fact, when you think about some of the things that go on the wireless LAN controller or attached to the wireless LAN controller, you think about the radius server, regulating who and what joins your network and for how long, BYOD. All these things become really a function of your business. And so as the wireless becomes a function of your business and becomes more and more important, you want to make sure that your design is enterprise ready, and that your environment is enterprise ready. And one of the things that's more important than anything in a lot of environments is security. And when it comes down to a controller or LAN-based or wireless-based controller, security is simply an applied policy in a controller-based environment. You got many organizations that have to deal with regulatory requirements such as HIPAA, PCI, and other things, and it creates a challenge when there is no control. A controller gives you the opportunity and the flexibility to deploy your wireless environment or your LAN controller wherever you want. You can actually put it behind your firewall. You can put it in your data center. You can put it in a hosted environment. It doesn't matter, but it will allow you to take that little check mark off on your regulatory requirements that says, I'm complying with HIPAA or PCI or whatever it is that requirement is. And so it allows you to have a really secure network that will allow you to focus on other things other than security. So those are my 2 tips for why having a control plane is so important.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I'm going to now pass it over to Bob, my colleague. Bob, what is your tip? Bob, I can't hear you. That is because you're muted. Bob, I'm going to unmute you, okay? All right.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry. My name's Rob Koralski. I'm a CSE out of Connecticut, and I support New England and New York State. And I'm just going to take control real quick. On my slide?
Yep, you're ready to go.
All right. So this is a typical Merkin access point. This is what most of our competitors ship. So you can see it comes with a fixed 2.4 gigahertz radio, 5 gigahertz radio, CPU, memory, and some network interfaces. And if you look at the 5 gigahertz radio, this is what our 2800s and 3800s ship with. So you can see we have a 5 gigahertz radio that has its own CPU, its own memory, and its very own DSP for voice and video applications. And then if you look at the 2.4 gigahertz, all right. our APs, the 2800s and 3800s, ship with what we call an XR radio, which is a Cisco innovation. No other AP manufacturer has this, and what that basically means is it's band unlocked, so it can assume the role of a 2.4 or 5 gigahertz radio. We also gave that radio its own CPU, memory, and DSP. We upped the gigahertz in the CPUs for the AP itself, and we also doubled the amount of RAM that's in the AP. And what this allows us to do is a lot of great features, in particular application visibility and control. And it also future-proofs the AP for future enhancements via software. Then we have our hardware offload. So if any of you have heard of Clean Air, that is a hardware product. It's spectrum analysis that runs on its own ASIC, and there's a few others in there as well. And for the network interfaces, we added a multi-gig port and an auxiliary lag port as well. And that multi-gig, if you haven't heard of it in the past, that is actually a technology that allows you to get between 2.5 and 5 gigahertz of throughput through your existing Cat5e cabling and above. So no reason to run additional cables if you're using multi-gig. That does require a switch. Other enhancements, so the macro and micro antennas, and those are primarily for use on the XOR radio. So when this access point runs in dual 5 gigahertz radio mode, the fixed 5 gigahertz radio uses the macro, and the XOR radio uses the micro antennas. Extremely innovative, as most of you know in wireless. It's not normal that two radios would be able to run simultaneously right next to each other like that, but we made some excellent hardware advancements in that space. The other thing is the DART antenna port, which is a smart antenna port, meaning that you can just plug an antenna into that, and it will understand what type of antenna it is and provision for it. So you can use that for location antennas, or if you're doing any type of stadium or high-density applications. And finally, our expansion port on the AP3800, and that allows for future enhancements. So it's a modular port, and this is the only modular access point on the market today. And all of these features and enhancements are delivered at a competitively priced access point. So these aren't vastly more expensive than our competitors, but they are, as you can see, fully loaded with many more resources, many more applications, and a lot more flexibility and versatility.
Great, good tip. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. For the next tip, I'm going to pass it over to my friend from Texas, Alejandro. Go ahead, Alejandro.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Well, I'm also a PSS. I live in Dallas and cover basically Texas. And what I wanted to share with you today is HDX. HDX stands for High Density Experience. And please don't think of high density as exclusive of stadiums or university classrooms. Also in your environment, with increased number of simultaneous applications, like voice over Wi-Fi or video collaboration, you name it, critical applications that are very relevant to your business. These are demanding very high throughput. And not only people is using these, but also things like cameras, sensors, RFID tags, or scanning guns. HDX effectively is an umbrella of different features and functionalities unique to the Cisco portfolio and are geared towards increasing the spectral efficiency of your network and increase the quality of experience using Wi-Fi. The tip today is that these features are very easy to enable and to fine-tune in your controller interface. Consider, for example, optimized roaming, the ability to constantly understand the client's location and very quickly correlate it with the nearest access point, avoiding the sticky client issue. Consider as well Client Link 4.0, which provides beamforming technology across all client users. And we have been using it for a number of years now in Cisco. We understand it very well. And regardless whether the clients use 11A or B, G, N, or AC, this technology, beamforming, will again track the location of the client devices and emphasize the transmission in their direction, allowing a higher quality session, allowing a very lower noise environment that will run the sessions faster and therefore release radio resources more quickly, right? And will save also client battery life. Consider again Clean Air. Clean Air is a signature technology of Cisco, unique to us, and it basically detects, locates, and mitigates the negative effects of interference. And now it's more important than ever because now we're using in the 11AC spectrum, right? It's basically 5 gigahertz spectrum, which is more susceptible to interference, right? So Clean Air in the HDX fashion has the ability to work on bonded channels, not only the 20 megahertz channels, but also 40, 80, and 160 megahertz, and basically dynamically steer the Wi-Fi stations away from the impacted channels, impacted by interference. These and more features work atop the hardware platform that Robert presented a couple of minutes ago, right? And I'm basically providing every radio within the access point with its own processor and memory. We're going to be able to effectively support these features. Turbo performance is the way we call this for HDX. And this hardware platform is coupled with algorithms for packet queuing, scheduling, and forwarding that scales very effectively to a high number of active clients.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
that's my tip today, Jason.
Thank you, Alejandro. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So the next one I'm gonna give myself because I thought I had a good tip. Mobility Express is kind of sounds a little marketing-ish in that name, but it kind of plays to what Ken was talking about earlier about really having a control plane strategy. And control plane in wireless, oftentimes we just think, oh, wireless LAN controller, which is this hardware box, which sometimes limits what we can do in terms of deployment, at least in terms of flexibility. Mobility Express is a feature on these new access points on the 2800s and the 3800s. Our Wave 2 access points have a built-in wireless LAN controller that will support up to 25 other access points. And they don't have to be 25 other Wave 2 access points. Any access point that's supported by the version of code that you're running, so say you're running version 8.3, any access point that's supported by 8.3, 3500s, 2600s, all of those access points would be supported as this Mobility Express AP is operating as a wireless LAN controller, and it is totally manageable by Prime Infrastructure. So that is my tip. And by way of introduction, for those of you who don't know, I've been with Cisco for about 16 years, and I'm pleased to give you that tip. Okay, I'm going to pass it over now to Brad Kincaid. Brad, can you give us your tip?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I don't have as long of a tenure at Cisco as Jason does. I've been here about 3 years. I've been doing nothing but wireless for close to 13 years now. So, yeah, it's a fun technology. So here's my tip, okay? So sometimes I think about why on earth do we have networks to begin with? And there are a lot of answers to that question. But one of my favorites is that the network exists to deliver applications to end users and customers. So given that is, to some people, the purpose of the network, my assertion is that there is no greater feature, a greater tip, contrary to what some of my colleagues on the call may say, since they have different tips, but turn on application visibility and control and use it. And so what am I talking about when I say application visibility and control? So Cisco, for years and years, has perfected a deep packet inspection-based algorithm for fingerprinting about 1,400 applications through our NBAR technology, which is network-based application recognition. So that exists and has existed in our switches for a long time. It's also in our wireless LAN controllers and now in our APs. And what it allows you to do is two principal things: visibility of applications and control. And that's really important in wireless networks. So first of all, I always recommend customers, hey, turn it on and then just use the visibility piece. So turn it on and look at what applications are using how much bandwidth in my environment. How many of those applications would I characterize as business critical, and how many are maybe some things that we could do without? And then take it one step further and start applying policy based on what's going on at layer 7. So, for example, the first thing a lot of customers do is they prioritize real-time collaboration applications that are business critical in the environment, and then look at applications that can be destructive to network performance in a shared medium, like those that use real-time streaming protocol that are not, so like a certain kind of streaming media services, et cetera, that use a lot of duty cycle on the radio and hog a lot of airtime for what would otherwise be business applications. So I always recommend that customers turn on and take advantage of application visibility and control. And as Bob mentioned a couple minutes ago, with our new access points, we're actually dedicating CPU resources on the access point so that you don't have to worry about performance implications at scale to take advantage of this great technology, which, by the way, is very different than how some of our competitors do it, because they're really just looking at what port number are you using, which isn't a very meaningful way to really look at applications and sessions and flows within applications. So I recommend you turn that on. 2 places to find it. If you're running 8.1 and beyond in the new dashboard part of the wireless LAN controller GUI, you can click on the best practices link, and it's right there up at the top. Turn on application visibility and control. Otherwise, it's under the wireless tab in the classic controller GUI. And in addition, you can take advantage of application visibility control for your entire access layer, wired, wireless, and WAN, using prime infrastructure. And that is my tip.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. That was a good one. And you're right, it was at least better than mine. For the next tip, I'd like to pass it over to Robert. Robert, could you introduce yourself? And the answer that you're probably not, to the question you're not answering me yet is, yes, I did get your slides, and they're ready to go.
All right, great. So my name is Robert Rolak. I've been in Cisco for roughly about 8.5, 9 years. Started off in sales, moved into channels implementation, where we built channels training content for how to implement Cisco technologies with wireless and ICE. Then I moved into the TAC. I supported ICE for about 4.5 years, ACS, AnyConnect, and then also now I moved back over into the sales org, and I'm on this side of the house again. So that's kind of my history. What I would like to share as my tip is just how ICE can assist with secure guest access. So we can go ahead and jump to the next slide. And the first thing that we'll think about with ICE is visibility and context. So ICE really allows for any wireless environment, any wired environment, to be able to show context. Context is huge because without it, we don't know what we're looking at. And we can't secure what we can't see. We don't know what's on our network. So specifically when it comes to guests, many organizations, many network managers want to know who are my guests, how long have they been in the environment, where do they connect from, what building are they located in, what branch are they located in, how do they connect. And that context that ICE provides when users are connecting to it is a beautiful piece, a missing piece in the environment that we can add in when we use ICE, specifically with guests along with wired and wireless environments. Next slide, please. So when we think about guests, the beautiful thing is with ICE and guests, you have several different options for deploying guests in your environment. One, the very, very easy way, kind of your coffee shop scenario where you have hotspot guest access. And this is allowing the guest user to come in, they get splashed to a portal completely customizable, whatever you want it to look like. You have the ability to do that. Either they can input an access code or you can have it with no access code. They just accept an acceptable use policy and get access to the environment. Another way that we can use guests is with the simple self-registration, and this can be self-registration with sponsor approval or self-registration without sponsor approval. So this is a scenario where your guest comes in, they create their own guest account, so you don't have to have somebody that pre-creates that account. They input whatever information you want to ask for, whether it just be email and mobile number, social security number, birthday, eye color, favorite restaurant, whatever information you want to ask for them, you can do that with ICE in the sponsor page. They input the info. Their information can be sent to a sponsor. The sponsor approves them, and they get internet access. Or they don't have to have a sponsor approval. They input that information, and then you give them a basic internet access. Then the last way is our role-based access. So this is where a sponsor will create a guest user beforehand. So you have your contractors, you have your several, the partners, you have different auditors, people that are coming into your environment, and you want to give them some sort of internal access or even just internet access, but you know they're coming. So the sponsor has the ability to go into the sponsor portal, create a guest account, give that information to the guest user via email, text message, or printing it out and delivering it to them. And then that guest user is able to connect to the environment with those credentials and have internet-only access or full access, depending on what your specifics are in terms of segmenting your environment. So this is just a beautiful addition to any wireless environment where you can have ICE to provide extreme context, extreme visibility into your guest environment, and make sure that your guest environment is completely secure and completely segmented from the internal wireless environment. That's my tip for you all.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Robert, the next tip comes from Alejandro.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, and I just wanted to very quickly share with you something that I learned recently about our access points, the top-of-the-line 2800 and the 3800. I'm very proud also to discuss big differentiators of these access points, namely what Robert presented before, the increased processing power per radio and memory, which is a great foundation. I mentioned to you Clean Air, which is another piece of hardware that sits in the circuitry for interference management. We have a very unique chipset as well, the Wi-Fi chipset in the access point. I just learned of an additional thing that we have in these access points that is called the Trust Anchor module. And the Trust Anchor module is basically very relevant because in today's era, we keep hearing about security breaches. And now with the advent of the Internet of Everything, more and more things are going to be connected to the network, and more things are going to be exposed. Concerns of malicious attacks on hardware, software, as well as counterfeiting of PCs or set-top boxes. Any type of edge device is exposed, and Cisco is proactively adding in many of our products. I should say not only in the access points, but of course, since we're talking about wireless, I need to say we're adding a secure boot, secure unique device identity, and many multiple Trust Anchor module technologies into these access points. The secure boot implementation provides basically a secure boot of signed image, and also anchors a root of trust into the hardware components. This hardware, which is a chipset with cryptographic functions and secure storage, this integrated circuit that starts the chain of trust can perform both system critical functions, security functions, and proactively monitors the startup process and of device, the access point, and shuts down if the process is tampered, if we detect that the process is tampered, right? So very exciting, a new piece of hardware that is embedded in the circuitry of the access point, and I think it's very important in this world of continuous security exposures to know that we have added this functionality into the access points.
Thanks, Alejandro. That really is a good tip, and especially with all of the news about all of these hardware hacks and things that are going on for monitoring. It's good that there's some built-in security in these products. Thanks for bringing that up. I'd like to invite Bill Holton to speak. Bill?
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Thank you. Do you want to give me control or?
It is, you have control.
Voila. All right. This is Bill Fulton, Wireless PSS here in Southern California. And I'm going to quickly take you through an oft-overlooked feature of our wireless solution, and that is this greatly simplified GUI dashboard that was originally presented in code version 8.1. So it's important to note you must have code version 8.1 or greater. Most of you in the session are likely familiar with what you're seeing here. This is the traditional GUI. If you were in the Wireless Friday session last month and you saw a demo of this from one of our colleagues as he walked through many of the tuning knobs that are available to you through this GUI. That session was also recorded, so if you'd like to view that, you may do so by going to ciscofullbars.com. But up here in the right-hand corner, it's sort of cut off, but you see this home button. And what that does is that takes you to a very simplified GUI dashboard. Let's go. Move forward. There we go. Which there are three kind of primary elements over here on the left. There's network summary, there's wireless dashboard, and best practices. On the network summary page, what you see here, this presents you with some very useful information, like your wireless networks, number of APs, active clients, rogues, interferers, etc. Keep in mind these are screenshots of a production controller. I took these last night. This controller is in production in our test facility in San Jose, so in case you were alarmed by the number of interferers, that's the reason why. The number of rogues and interferers is rather exorbitant. But the best part is you have several of these dashlets available to you, a couple of which are visible on screen now. These can be added to your dashboard, taken out, presented in graphical fashion or in matrix fashion to your heart's content. The best part is, though, the ability to drill down into this information presented here. For instance, if I choose a specific AP, I can drill into it and discover a lot of useful information. General info as well as performance summary information to the right there. Wow, at first glance, that's a ton of channel utilization, but the reality is that's not too uncommon in the 2.4 gig space. If you saw that in the 5 gig space, then that would be cause for alarm. But furthermore, you have some really great tools at your disposal, as you see there towards the bottom of the screen. This is more of a scroll down. There's RF troubleshooting capabilities, some other tools. And if I further drill down into clients, this kind of tab right here, these are the clients associated to this specific AP that I chose to drill into. One of whom has a username Joe Chang, as you see highlighted in gray here. And there's some really useful information here on uptime usage, OS, etc. But wait, it gets even better. If I click on Joe Chang and drill down further on him, I get to some really great stuff like device type and performance connectivity, top applications, and so forth. And looks like Joe apparently likes to hang out on Google a lot. I'm just going to breeze through the next couple of slides here through the wireless dashboard. To show some great high-level views you have access to, like AP and client capability, signal strength, and signal quality. Again, all of these you can drill into further and just get a myriad of great information from this very simple GUI dashboard. But one of my best tools, my most favorite tools here, and I'm going to end on this, is around wireless best practices. And this is really awesome because this gives wireless network operators the ability to implement the world's most feature-rich wireless network with just a few mouse clicks, taking advantage of what have been predefined best practices for, call it 3 pillars here: infrastructure, security, and RF management. In each of these 3 pillars, you can expand even further and get to a ton of features and functionality. And I've done so here with RF management. I went ahead and expanded that, so you can see a handful of the features and functionality that are shown here. Auto coverage hole, for instance, that's coverage hole detection rather. Clean air, RRM. Again, these are the most powerful wireless features and functionality, bar none, in the industry, and it's just a few mouse clicks away to implement. So very powerful stuff. Please don't overlook this tool. It's in our WLC code version 8.1 or later. Back to you, Jason. Jason, we can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking.
I was talking, and I was also going, hey, for our next tip, and thank you, Bill, I really appreciate that. I am not seeing Patrick, so I think I'm going to give Patrick's tip for him, unless Patrick... All right. So I'm going to give Patrick's tip for him. Patrick Kirk is a CSE, he's a CCIE speaker at Cisco Live, and one of the tips that he had was that not only his session, which Patrick presented last month at for Wireless Friday, and I thought it was a great session. You can check it out on the recording later on if you missed it. However, he did an even better session at Cisco Live last year. It was a 2-hour session on building a highly available wireless network. That 2-hour session is available to you, video, content. Just simply go to Cisco Live, the main Cisco Live website, and you can have access to all of that great content. So if you were not able to attend Cisco Live, all you have to do is create an account, and you'll be able to see all that great content. I'd like to also now pass it over to Ben Edwards, who's a CSE on my team. Ben? Ben is muted. Ben, I'm going to unmute you.
Thank you.
Ben,
I had muted myself on my phone, but not on the WebEx.
Yeah, that's gotcha.
If you want to pass me the ball as well. My name is Ben Edwards. I am a enterprise networking CSE in California. I've been working with Cisco for the last 5 years. And the first tip that I'd like to share is being able to utilize other resources out there that aren't Cisco.com. So, for example, a lot of our product development teams are utilizing YouTube. So being able to watch a video about how Cisco ICE can help manage your security network and how you can get that control and how you can set up different types of features and functionalities all in a video that the product team has put together for you to show you how to configure everything. As well as Cisco.com's main channel, which has playlists that are separated by the type of architecture that you're looking at. So, for example, I put up one here for enterprise networks and mobility, since that's what we're talking about here today. And there's a lot of really good videos, and the great thing about these videos is that they're not very long. They're 3 to 5 minutes, and you get the ability to digest something simply to understand a new feature or how something works or how to configure something. And I know I still use these on a sometimes daily, but most often weekly basis, just to refresh on something or to share this with my team. The next tip that I had, because I think I have 2 in a row. Am I right, Jason?
You're right.
All right. Well, the next one is simply deciphering AirOS build numbers. So how to figure out what code version you're on and what that means to you. And the first part of that is the train number, the build train. So, for example, 8.2 or 8.3, which is the latest release train. And these will be the first 2 numbers in your build. The second number is the 3-digit candidate number. The first release of a build is always a .100, and then every time that our product team issues a maintenance release, it gets 10 added to it. So for example, 8.2.110.0 is the first maintenance release for 8.2. And we will simplify that internally and just say 8.2 MR1. Currently, we are on 8.2 MR5, which is 151 there. And then if we do have any last-minute bug or security updates that can get out, we will update the third number in the three-digit candidate number. And then if there is an interim build, so we had something that needed to be specially released for a specific customer, or it was worked on through TAC, then that fourth number will change as well. And if you ever are looking for, well, which release should I be on? Which release does what functionality is added? The release notes will have the new features and functionalities. And then I'll also like to recommend another site that I've got up here. I've got two sites actually. The first, they're both recommended build sites. So the first one is for our AirOS code trains. So this is what TAC recommends on what builds you should be running and why, for what deployments, and if any bugs have affected them and have been fixed. So for example, the latest one, 8.3, this is a screenshot from, I believe, last week. So we're on 8.3 MR1, but that's been updated with a security bug fix after the fact, which is the one that's listed there in that screenshot. And the great thing is that you can get a link to that and go look at what was fixed and make sure that that's not going to affect your environment. And then the last link there is iOS XE. If you're running a 3850 or 5760 and you're running the wireless LAN controller in it, we do still have recommended builds for those as well.
Hey, thanks, Ben. I really appreciate that. I'll make sure to include both those links in a follow-up email that'll go out to everybody. Excellent, excellent. So far, so good. I really appreciate it. I'm going to ask Ken again to talk about right-to-use licensing. Ken?
Yep. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yep, we sure can.
All right, very good. So this next tip is about right-to-use licensing, which is really a game changer. The new controller implementations are more than just a matter of functionality. It really is about licensing and portability. In the past, traditional controllers would marry the controller to an access point, or in most cases, a block of access points. For example, you would need 5 access points to, fill out your network, and you would have to make a decision to, purchase 10, 30, or even 50 when you only need 5. And you would go through that process because you would think, well, if I buy 10 and I need 30 down the road, how do I handle it? And once you purchase it, it was married to that controller. You couldn't move it. You couldn't do anything with it. The Cisco One has changed that concept. And with the Cisco One license, your licenses are perpetual and they're portable. And this means actually a number of different things. First, having a control plane is really what matters, right? Not the type of controller. So now you can move your access points from controller to controller. You can actually upgrade your controller without having the penalty of having your licenses stuck on a specific controller. You can actually make your access point a controller with Cisco Mobility Express, as was mentioned before. And so your options in what you do with your licenses are virtually unlimited. Now, the second thing, which is important, is your incremental growth is more cost effective. We talked about how you can purchase 1 or 2 access points if that's all you really need. So now you basically purchase the licenses you need. So you only have to pay what you need. So now you're living in a consumption-based environment as opposed to sort of a Costco-based environment where you buy as much as you can and hope you use it. And so that is actually more cost-effective for you, and it's probably easier for you to talk to your IT department or to your CIO about growth. And the third thing that's important, too, is technology refresh. It's actually simpler. So because your licenses are portable, say, for instance, you had an older wireless LAN controller and you want to upgrade because of more features or even more capacity. Now all you have to do is go out and purchase that wireless LAN controller without having the issues of losing those licenses and having to purchase more licenses. So now your licenses are portable. The same is true for your access points as well. And so when you think about the right to use being a game changer, it really allows you more flexibility in using your licenses the way you want. And quite frankly, is something that it will benefit you guys as users as opposed to Cisco, because it will give you the ability to move around more freely, keep your access points longer if you needed to, and only change the access points or the controllers you actually need instead of having to do this forklift upgrade in the future. So that's my tip on right to use licenses, and back to you.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. So good news, bad news. We are almost to the end, and in the home stretch, I would like to invite Ron Amenta to present the next tip.
Thanks, Jason. So this is Ron Amenta. I'm an enterprise sales specialist here out of Chicago. Started with Aeronet back in 1998, so been around here in the wireless space for quite some time now. So I guess in the good news segment of this, I'm going to talk about how to save you money. So if that helps everybody from a tips and tricks perspective, I'm going to give you some of the promotional information that's available today. So Cisco clearly delivers a number of different promotions. You guys might be familiar with some of those. Those can change with product or change by fiscal year here as well. But some of the things that we provided here are trade-in for older equipment. So for example, perhaps from an AP standpoint, moving from 11N to 11AC Wave 2 where we are today. We also provide credits here, promotions around trade-in for competitive or competing product that you might have installed today to put in new Cisco Aeronet equipment. And then also we do some bundles. From an access layer perspective, 2 switches, 5 APs, or 2 switches, 10 APs, allow you to get some cost savings anywhere from, I would say, 15% on up, depending on what your product mix is with those particular access components. So we also do offer, as Jason has here at the bottom, the pure wireless bundle. So I kind of might position that a little bit as we have around a volume play. Of course, you know, the more you pile on there, the better that number can get as we grow up with that deal. But what I was going to focus on here from a migration standpoint, kind of getting into what Ken had talked about there as well, and one of the more popular ones that we have going on today is a migration program that allows you to go not only into new hardware, but also into the Cisco One offering that Ken was talking about. So this migration offer for number one, provides you with this ability to get into the new hardware technology. So many customers today are working with the very, very popular 5508 wireless LAN controller, or perhaps the 2504 and a number of those. The 5508, for example, has been around now for going on about 8 years, and we typically look for a product cycle here somewhere in the 5 to 7 year range. And with the pace of change in wireless, it might be on the short end of that deal. But again, very popular, been around for a while, but perhaps time to look at a refresh for those. As Ken had mentioned, those do have a node lock with those licenses. Actually, those licenses do belong, effectively to the box, if we will, versus the customer. So the next thing that does for us, this promotional migration, is to get you into the new consumption model, and that is with Cisco One. So the Cisco One piece does come in different flavors. WAN, data center, advanced security, and of course the access piece that we're talking about here today. So we look at this in terms of a software suite, some of which you may have components of, but some additional ones that you may not, that with this migration program gives you a very cost-effective way of getting into it. Again, those licenses then would be permanent and perpetual by maintaining the software support on those. And that license now belongs to you, the customer, versus being kind of tied to that box as historically we've had here at Cisco. Now this software is then available. The Cisco One suite all by itself, just buying net new, would be $350. With this migration program and putting you into the new hardware platform allows you to buy this Cisco One migration SKU at $200 if you do not own prime infrastructure. If you own prime infrastructure here as well today, that Cisco One migration cost, getting you into that software suite, is going to be $150. Just a standard net new AP price on a controller today is $200. So you can see that now we can put you into Cisco One and bring that price point down there to $150. With that Cisco One suite, some of the additional value that you might get out of it here potentially is, one, now with Prime infrastructure, we do provide Prime assurance as part of that solution as well. So now we can see those things like how this network and your wireless infrastructure is being consumed, not only by number of devices, but by what applications that those users are leveraging. Also, we provide ICE base. So we talked about ICE and the guest access capabilities that exist here today. Now this is available to you at 25 devices per license. So in a bigger network, you can see that that would add up likely to cover what you would need there from a guest access as well as from a standard access control solution here for you going forward. Also, it provides the CMX and MSE base licenses. So now we get that visibility into our network and allow us to do historical tracking of devices here within our network. See and place rogue access points, any Wi-Fi device that we might have out there in our network. And then lastly, something that Cisco One provides here for us as well is ongoing innovation. So Jason, I think kind of teeing up here some of what you're going to talk about too with this free 1 year of StealthWatch. Something that was recently added here is 5 flows per Cisco One wireless foundation license as well. So kind of give you a flavor of what we have there for network as a sensor through your wireless network going forward. So that's it for me in terms of what we have there for that Cisco One and new controller migration program.
Hey, thanks, Ron. I really appreciate that. That is a really good tip, and I'm going to close up the tips with just I'm going to talk a little bit more about StealthWatch. And I will give opportunities for everyone to ask questions. If you have a question that you would like to verbally ask, just on the right-hand side of the screen, underneath the participants, you'll see a hand icon. Just go ahead and click on that hand icon, and I'll see this kind of like raising your hand. And if you raise your hand, I'll unmute you and call on you, and you can ask your question. We'll try and go through some of the Q&A panelists, Q&A questions that have already been answered, or there's something we want to talk about there. But what I want to do is I want to talk about StealthWatch. StealthWatch is such a cool product, and for those of you who migrate to Cisco One or purchase or make an investment in Cisco One as part of a promotional program that we've got going on right now, we include a license for StealthWatch complimentary for an entire year. And that gives you everything that you need, right? Because I was, when I first saw that, I was pretty skeptical. I'm like, so what else do they need? Do they need a $2,000 this or a $10,000 that? Well, no, really, all you need is capacity in a virtual server environment, whether it's an ESX or a kernel virtual machine environment on Linux. All you got to do is download what we call the flow collector and the security management console through Cisco One. There's a process that will fulfill your license entitlement. You just apply the licenses to those two pieces, and you go to your controller, or you go to your new switch, your 3650 or 3850 that have the application visibility capability that my colleague Brad had talked about. And you just start watching, the system actually starts watching the flows. And if you don't know much about StealthWatch, I will include a little 2-minute video. I think it's actually 2.5 minutes that kind of gives you an idea of what it is and how powerful it is. For those of you who have already made an investment in Cisco One, it's quite possible you're already entitled to this. All you have to do is turn it on, and there's no obligation beyond that. So with that, I have, in hopefully not too small of writing, included all of the tips from today. So if you have any questions, please do raise your hand, and I'll get you unmuted. I should be able to see your hand being raised. I don't know if anybody is brave enough to raise their hand and ask a question, but we'll certainly try to be gentle. Anyway, panel, question for you guys. Are there any questions in the Q&A panel that would make sense to kind of add in here, or maybe was there something that we missed? Oh, my panel's being quiet. All right. Well, so that probably means that all of the questions have been answered, and that
would Stealth Watch replace WIPs? I think somebody might be in the process of answering that, but the answer would be no. It's complementary in the overall scheme of security.
Yeah, that is a really good question. You know, wireless IPS, the capability that's built into our wireless LAN controllers and our access points act as sensors while they're serving client devices. You know, the reason that we can do that is because of the technology that that Bob talked about earlier. That not all APs are created equal, and one of the interesting things that we can do is be an air monitor for over-the-air attacks, and that's so that's wireless IPS. What Stealth Watch looks for is really about kind of behavioral characteristics. Is there a client device that is all of a sudden and maybe out of the blue starting to send a whole bunch of data to some random IP address out on the internet that is within a known range of hostile actors on the internet? You may not know that. It may not be against your policy. It may be, you know, your firewall's letting it through because it's using protocols that are allowed. But this behavior, though, that just all of a sudden and out of the blue, we're starting to see a bunch of packets go to some random thing out on the internet. Maybe that is alerting. So that's kind of what Stealth Watch looks at. So it looks at application behavior and flow behavior. So again, yeah, you're absolutely right, Bill. It's complementary. Okay, we are getting to the top of the hour again. I don't have any attendees with raised hands, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this out. I want to thank everyone for joining today. I have a lot of fun getting prepared for Wireless Friday, and looks like another well-attended event. So thank you so much for your time. We're going to be doing this again in just 4 weeks. April 28th is going to be the next Wireless Friday. And currently the topic is going to be something that Alejandro talked about earlier, which is HDX, which is kind of short for high density experience, and kind of the features and capabilities that are in HDX. So that's at least currently the unless someone else has a much better idea, that's what we're going to be presenting. So with that, I'm going to close this out. Thank you again so much for your time, and have a great Wireless Friday and a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.